Hi, and welcome to Dani After Dark. If you're new here, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss a notification or a new episode. Tonight, we are here with a very special guest, or guests, should I say. If you saw the thumbnail for this episode, then you know who is here. It is Megan and Neil from the Mortal Musings Podcast. They started in November 2023. And they are a true crime podcast that puts out weekly episodes, as well as at the end of their episodes, strange oddities. They are a staple now at CrimeCon UK. And to be perfectly honest, their podcast is just freaking amazing. So without any further time being passed, let's go ahead and bring them on. Hi, Megan. Hi, Neil. How are you?
Hey, how are you?
Good.
Feels get a bit distracted of the blank wall in the background, but
oh, I thought Neil was like trying to get like primed and ready and like, okay, is my hair in place? Do I look good? Everything good?
It was like a sudden reveal.
Oh man, well, thank you guys for being here. I'm really excited to have you on my show.
Oh, we're excited to be here.
So we formally met at the Once Upon a Crime Christmas holiday show that Esther had us on.
We did.
Yeah, and that was a lot of fun. So I have been, binging your podcast ever since. And it's just, I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. And we will get into that. But before we do that, let's kind of start a little bit from the beginning and introduce yourselves and where are you each from?
You want to go first or I?
So yeah, I'm Neil. I'm known as the village idiot of true crime.
There.
So I'm originally from Sheffield in Yorkshire in England, but now I live in Ireland. I've never really been into true crime that much. It was you who she'd tell me stuff and get a funny reaction, and
you don't sound happy about it. You kind of turned to me as if it was you who did this to
the
me.
amount of nightmares and dark thoughts I've had since doing this. But yeah, that's pretty much how I got here.
Yeah, and I'm Megan. I'm from Dublin, Ireland. I met Neil while he was still in the UK. He came over here. We're a couple. We've been together. We're heading towards a decade together now. Somewhere along the way, I said, let's do a podcast. And here we are. Traumatizing Neil every week, once a week.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, so how did you guys meet?
Do you want me to?
Yeah, you go ahead.
And if it's too personal of a story, you don't have to say.
No, you're right.
No.
It's actually a good story.
Yeah. This is like a Romeo and Juliet of
the digital era.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I used to be into gaming a lot, competitive gaming. And for my downtime of competitive gaming, which I was also competitive on, was Grand Theft Auto Online. Oh. And I joined a random race lobby and Megan was in there. And so I started a racing team for GTA Online and Megan joined and we was racing together all the time. And then, I needed a break from work and stuff. So I booked a week off work. I came over to Dublin, spent 4 days with you.
Yeah, 4 days.
Spent 4 days in a hotel. And then I went back to the UK and then you came over to Sheffield
for a week,
a month later?
Yeah.
And Megan had a return ticket on the plane. But by the time it got to the end of that week, I said, fuck that. I'm coming back with you. And I bought us 2 tickets on the ferry, my car, and then I filled the car with my stuff. And I've never been back since. And
well, you have been back for a visit, but not to live.
We've lived together since we started in a relationship.
Pretty much, yeah.
So yeah, we've been together and living together for 10 years. Nearly.
That is amazing. I didn't know that. Oh my God. That's
an interesting story.
Cute. But
still
also
going.
with the way meeting people online works, that Megan, that could have ended very badly.
Could have.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Whenever I say like, oh well, me and Neil met online, people go, oh, like dating app. No,
Hang
actually
on.
gaming.
Why is she saying it could have ended badly for you? It could happen to me.
Yeah, but I mean, statistically,
I could be covering her case on Dani After Dark. But
it's okay. It worked out.
Yeah.
That's so cute. Oh my gosh, you guys. And congratulations on coming on almost 10 years. That's amazing.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, we were both big into gaming, but once we were together, we didn't.
No,
really.
actually, we end up kind of just getting busy with things, and especially with the podcast now, kind of takes up so much time that gaming isn't really a part of our life. I mean, we'd love to get into it again, and maybe even on YouTube, do some maybe horror games or something like that. That might be fun. But yeah, day to day.
And then
really
I started the Discord server for the podcast. And I was thinking, if it ever gets to a point where we can quit our jobs and do podcasting full time, I might do something where we can game with listeners.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, there are some channels I've seen on YouTube that do that. I'm not a gamer, so I don't watch them, but I know they exist.
Yes.
So, well, that's very cool. So in regards to starting a true crime podcast, so Neil, you flat out said you weren't into true crime, but how did the idea of a podcast start? And what case was there one where you're like, let's do a podcast and let's cover this one particular case? Like, we got to do this.
So when, like I said, we'd be sat eating dinner and Megan would just keep telling me these cases, and she'd be like, oh, I read about this. Because even when Megan was just listening to podcasts, she would have to start searching stuff herself and looking at why they did it and everything. And then she'd be telling me, she was like, they did this to a cat and they did this and they did this. And then she was getting funny I didn't even know, but she was getting funny reactions out of me. And she said, we need to start recording this immediately. This is gold. And that's pretty much how it started. So it's literally once a week for about an hour. Megan traumatizes me. And then I have to go and watch Lion King or Hangover or something to calm myself down before I can even go to bed.
I mean, I think that's the thing. I think, whether you're the person who's really into true crime or it's, say, your partner or your friend in the background is kind of being forced into it, you've got me who's really into it, and then Neil is like half co-host, half audience, who's just these things that you may not think of, but your friend or partner, whoever is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Your reactions are definitely on the spot, where I think, like, as an audience member, some of the things you say, I'm like, I just thought that. Or some of the things you say, I'm like, I can't believe he just said that.
Yeah. So like we always made it a thing of, I don't know what she's going to cover. It's literally, we sit down to start recording, and at the start of the episode, she'll say, and today we're covering. That is when I first know what we're covering. The only time is if it's something she knows what will trigger me, then she'll say, she won't tell me what the case is. She'll just say it involves X, Y, and Z. And that's as much as I'll know before we record. Was there anything when you first started saying about podcasts, cover this? I want you to cover this.
I mean, I'm not very kind of...
Kenny Carter.
Oh, yeah, that's actually a good case to talk about. So Kenny Carter was a speedway rider. I don't think it's very popular in America. Do you want to...
No.
Speedway, it is popular enough in America, but not compared to like American football. So Speedway is, so the motorbikes, the 500cc with no brakes, and there's 4 of them in a race, what will go around an oval dirt track. And yeah, they do 4 laps. Each race lasts about 60 seconds, which is roughly a minute.
Well, or is exactly a minute.
Keep up, lads.
Yeah, he was a big speedway rider in the UK in the 80s. And things got a bit on top of him, and he had a bit of, would you say, mental illness? He was very paranoid, and
Yeah.
and he thought his wife was cheating on him, so he killed her and then killed himself. And in the speedway community, it's very hush hush. You don't talk about it.
Mm.
And I remember when Megan first said, I want to do a true crime podcast, and I said to her, we'll do it, but you need to cover Kenny Carter because no one else will. No one else will touch it. And she said, what happened? And I said, his wife cheated on him, so he killed her and killed himself. And straight away she said, there's more to that. There's no way that's it. And she looked into it, and it wasn't the case, was it?
Yeah, there's always more to it, especially like you
Yeah.
said, when it's a case that kind of fans don't really want to address it. You're kind of like, let's have a look. But I mean, that was because, like I said, Neil was so into speedway. He's always talking about it. He really enjoys it. And then the fact that there was this true crime aspect, which piqued my interest, it was kind of like, okay, well, this is both sides. And then Neil can really get involved as someone who's, been around the racetrack, talk to riders, and his
Like
dad actually knew Kenny
yeah.
Carter. So
And then I actually had people on Facebook in the speedway community messaging me, how dare you, and all this, and it was just fuck off.
Well,
like I'm covering it.
Well, I mean,
keep it quiet.
I think it's more the fact of obviously be respectful of family and friends, fully understand that. But when it's a fan who doesn't want to tarnish their racing legacy, and it's like, okay, but his wife was someone, his kids were someone, they have a say as well,
Yeah, that episode, it was definitely very clear that Neil really knew a lot about this, and you referenced your dad a lot in the episode, that like a lot of you were asking your dad for information about that case. Oh man. Well, that was an excellent episode. So I will say that was a good one. So great job on that one. And I liked how Neil was real. Like you could tell, like I said, it was just Neil had his interest in it and he was very passionate about that case versus the others where he's like, never heard of it. And it's like a big name killer that Megan's covering. And I'm like, what? Like, are you under a rock, Neil? Like, how do you not know this name? But that's okay. That's okay. We learn together.
I'm a visual person. Show me the picture. I might have an idea, but the name, I'm going to forget.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fair. I'll give you that.
The other issue is I don't have a very good memory. So what's the case we've recently covered?
Timothy Ferguson.
Do that again in a month. Nothing. I won't remember.
No. Start afresh.
Gotcha. So it's always new to Neil. The cases are always new. So when you guys started the podcast or were in the process of beginning it, what was the reaction from your friends, family, coworkers, especially you, Neil, where you're not even into true crime?
So we both discussed it and we said we're not going to tell anyone. Mm-hmm. And if someone finds out organically, then we know it's doing well.
We told parents. We told it like couple close family members and things like that. Because obviously, you're busy and things like that. You don't want them to call up and be like, well, what are you doing? And be like, oh, like I can't tell you. So obviously, a few people know. But in terms of like co-workers and things like that, if you're watching this, hi. But we haven't actually told them, So we're waiting for the day to go, do you have a podcast? And we go, we do actually. Thanks for asking.
That's cool.
And then I'll have my dad. So, and in regards to support, so I told my dad, we're going to cover Kenny Carter on our podcast. And he said, what's a podcast? And I said, basically think of it as me and Megan have got like a radio show. Only uploads once a week for like an hour. And he went, I don't get it. And I went, I don't understand what you don't get. So you think I'm bad? You should meet my father.
It's just like the caricature of you.
Oh, man. I hope he doesn't listen to the show, because with all due respect, Neil, you kind of throw him under the bus with some things on the show. But I'm sure he'd love you and support you nonetheless.
He's got a good sense of humor, so
Yes.
I'm sure he'll enjoy it.
So one of the things that we kind of briefly talked about earlier is where Neil isn't familiar with a lot of these cases, Megan, that you cover. So we get his reactions, in real time. And I just have to give two examples of myself as a listener kind of listening to this. So one, so I feel like I listen to podcasts typically when I'm driving, just because I do a lot of commuting. And I feel like my facial reactions, if there was anybody that ever drove by me at the time, like Neil speaks on camera, because some of the times I'm like, wow, that's great. That's interesting. And then some of the times I'm like, what the fuck is he thinking?
Yeah.
So I feel like I get very animated. Neil, with all due respect, this is not a Neil bashing session. It may turn into that, but that's not the intent. But also, so the one, the main one I wanted to say is, so again, whether I listen to it when I drive, I don't ever pause it. Like if I'm in like a drive-through for a coffee or something, I don't pause it. I just don't care if, the drive-through worker hears what I'm listening to. And recently, maybe like about a month and a half ago, I forget, I was listening to you guys' episode on the body farm, which was so good. And at the moment I was getting the ticket from the guy in Boston to park my car, Neil said something, and it was, I think it was about sex with a corpse or something. Whatever it was, the attendant just stared at me and gave me this look like, what? And I was so embarrassed. And I was like, I'm so sorry. It's a podcast. I didn't, it was, oh my God. Oh my God.
I don't believe you.
Have to share that.
You should hear what doesn't make the cut.
Oh, well, that's the problem, I think that's the thing, though, because it is just like you never know what Neil is going to come out with. Sometimes it is so, it's so kind of akin to what everyone else is thinking. And then other times, exactly what you said, you go, wait, what?
Yeah.
Like, how did your mind get from A to God knows where?
See, one I remember was when we covered, and it was our second episode. It was our second episode, and it was Richard Chase. And you talked about he was running around naked. Yeah, he was running around butt naked in a farm field covered in blood. And the police came and tackled him, which very brave of them.
Yeah.
While he's naked. Because I said in the episode I couldn't come back from that.
Yeah, no one wants to be that officer.
If I got hit on the head with a lad, not happening. And they let him go with no charges because it was cow's blood. So and she said, so there was no crime. And I was like, that's someone's cow.
Yeah.
He has slaughtered someone's cow.
Yeah. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah. And everyone were like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. That was one of those moments where I was like, animal cruelty, But yeah. Oh, Richard. Yeah. The vampire Sacramento. That's definitely one of those cases. So,
yeah. Like squashing oranges on his head.
Yeah. Because he was trying to absorb the vitamin C.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
that case has a little bit of everything. And that's one of those cases of like mental illness, like highlighting and taking over for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
In regards to the cases that Megan, that you select for the show, how do you go about selecting those cases?
Okay, so like I've always loved true crime, always been a big fan. So when I did kind of approach Neil with the idea of doing the podcast, I already kind of had this long list of ones I knew for a fact I was going to do. And then they all kind of filter in along the way of, one you've heard about or a listener may have suggested to you, or, you just on someone else's podcast or YouTube that you've come across it and you go, I have to do this. And then when it comes to selecting it, week by week, I think that depends, because sometimes you can get really deep dive into a case. And then other weeks you're kind of struggling to do one. Like recently we did Lacey Fletcher, the death of Lacey Fletcher. And that was a very difficult case to tell, but it's kind of one of those that it has to be told for that reason. Writing it up, I really struggled with it, but actually telling it and the finished product of the episode, I was pretty happy with. I think we did a good enough job to tell the case without being overly gruesome for the sake of it,
I had to break when I was editing that one. So something I found strange, and I'd love to know if it happens for other podcasters. When we sat down recording, like obviously what she's telling me is brutal, but it doesn't really sink in. It's when I'm sat down editing it after, and it's like, oh my God. Like, the Lacey Fletcher one, at least 6 times I had to walk away from it, take a break, and have to come back. It took me a while to edit that one.
Yeah, it's a tough case.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, it's all these different avenues, I suppose, that kind of just filter in. And yeah, I suppose you got to kind of, I mean, also because we don't just do true crime cases, we'll kind of, like you said, the Body Farm episode, we'll kind of do kind of cases around that area. I try to kind of mix it up and have different ones in between. But yeah, I suppose it's see what takes the fancy that week. So to speak.
Have there ever been cases that you've started to research thinking, all right, we're going to cover this, and then at some point in the research process, you're like, we can't do it. We can't do this case, or I can't do this case?
I mean, it's kind of yes and no. I'm not particularly limited. Like, some people find it very difficult to talk about cases involving children. For Neil, that will be one that you find particularly difficult to listen to. I don't have an issue covering those cases. But I think you definitely got to kind of pick your moments and be particularly careful with them. There was one case I was wanting to cover. I'm hoping we will, but it's very difficult. I'm not quite sure how to approach it. It's a case about a young boy who sexually assaulted his sibling. And once his father found out about that, he murdered his son. So there's a lot of parts to it. I'm not quite sure how to tell that case.
And you're scared of what I'll say.
It's a very difficult one, but once I kind of figure out how to, if I can get enough information on it to kind of let all sides be told, I think it's quite an interesting one, because you can understand all these different sides. In that case, the son who sexually assaulted someone, which is horrific, he also did go to his mother and try and seek help for what he was feeling and what he was, so the mental health side of it comes into play there. And you want to be able to tell that side of it fair,
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I don't know that case. So that would be an interesting one.
It might shock you. I don't know that case either.
You don't say, Neil. You don't say. All right, Neil, have you heard of, I'll throw you a softball here, Ted Bundy?
Yes. But I only found out. So what was it on an episode, or was it on page when we were talking about it? And she said something about necrophilia, and I went, I didn't know he did that. And she went, that's the whole thing with Ted Bundy. And I went, I thought he was like peeping, like he looked through windows. That's how he started. And then he climbed through windows and then murdered women. And she had to tell me, no, he was necrophile. I was like, oh, I thought he was like, I don't know. Like,
I don't know what he was, just know the name.
I thought he was just a killer.
Just a killer, Just
a vanilla killer. Like,
that's been one case. Like when I first started, I was like, I'm going to cover that case. I just wanted to get more confident, like doing the show. I still have yet to cover it. But that's one where I'm like.
I did have a case before we even did the podcast. So we used to work overnights together. Like we still work together. So not only have we been together nearly 10 years, we live together, work together. Our rest time is together. Apart from when I go airsofting, we're always together. That's
airsofting?
Yeah.
What is airsofting?
When you like the guns with the BBs?
Oh, yeah. You guys call it airsofting. Okay. I didn't know that term.
Okay.
Sorry. Okay. Continue.
I've just recently put pictures up on my Instagram, actually. My new gear setup. yeah, so we were working together overnight, and so I, the gentleman I am, because we only had one speaker, and I said to her, "Put what you want on." So she was putting true crime podcasts on. So before we even started the podcast, Carl Panzeran, I was like, "What the fuck is wrong with this guy?"
Yeah.
Like, I was really like invested in that
Yeah.
that coverage
Case.
We have actually got a funny story about Carl Panzeran as well.
Yeah, please say.
You say it as if you know him personally.
No,
One time I was at a party with Carl.
Yeah. So you know how the stereotype of an overnight worker is, but they're a bit odd and a bit weird. We really hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
So
we really did not do much for that stereotype.
So Megan put Carl Panzeran on, and so when we were working overnights, we were the only ones in the building. There was me, her, and one other worker. That's it. But a guy was coming to do some maintenance work.
Oh boy.
About 3 a.m. he showed up, and the other worker let him in. And as he opened the door to where we were, where the speaker was, where the Carl Panzeran case was being covered, he had one step in the room, and the speaker, loud, said, and then he sodomized over 300 boys. That man didn't look at us, speak to us for the entire time he was there. He was still there when we left, actually, I think.
Yeah. I did feel bad for him because it was just like the tension. You could cut it with a knife. It was awful.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a funny story now. But
I think that's amazing. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that guy probably texted like one of his coworkers, like, if I don't come back, I am at this location.
He could be on a podcast now telling his story of how he survived.
Yeah.
Very
I
true.
don't know what I said. What was so horrific when she was in the drive-thru?
We're gonna have to listen to it back.
It was something with like someone doing something physically to the bodies at the body farm. I swear. Yeah, it was something physical, but it was just a combination of like, that was one of the moments where it was like, Neil, what did you just say? And then the drop. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So when we do an episode, it's literally she researches, we record, I edit, and then before I can schedule the upload, Megan has to listen to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then she'll be like, take that out. Right, that needs to go. You need to take that out. Like, we'll get cancelled. You can't keep that in. That is so offensive. So whatever it is, you let it in.
Yeah, it's my fault, really. Even though he said it. Editor.
You were so quick to throw her under the bus. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Not only does she do like all the research and writing, you're just like, yep, throw her under the bus. It's her fault. She approved it.
That is something that I really don't like. Is when we started, Megan said, she went, I know you're going to be the favorite for listeners. But when we get feedback, it's, oh, the editing's really good. Neil's really funny. Oh, I can't believe he said that. No one ever really picks up on how much research and time Megan puts into it. And I always feel like people need to realize how much work. Like, I'll edit an episode and it takes me, say if it's a 50-minute episode, it might take me 7-8 hours. Whereas a case might take her 5 days, 7 days to research. And no one really, I don't know. I don't think you get the gratitude you should.
I know what you're saying, but like I said when we first went into it, people are going to love you because they're listening to such a difficult topic, such a, horrific details. They need Neil to come along and just break that tension and say something that either we're all thinking but don't say, or I was not thinking that. Where did you get that from?
Yeah.
We need you to bring that comic relief.
Like, I've upset Americans quite a lot.
We have. Majority of our listeners are actually American. So Neil thought it's a great idea to target them.
Thanks. But you both have a good dynamic where, from a listener perspective, it wouldn't be the same. It wouldn't be as good a quality if there was just one without the other.
Yeah.
Because it's just both are needed, like the seriousness of it from Megan, and then Neil just again cutting that tension. But I will say, being somebody who does do true crime as well, and there's so much behind the scenes that people don't realize. So Megan, like, props and shout out to you for doing the research that you do, because it's not easy and it's very time consuming. Just to get like a half hour, 45-minute episode, like, it's days of research, like Neil said. Absolutely. So
it's like sometimes I could be sat watching telly, or I could be editing, and I'll look over and she'll be sat on a tablet researching, and like I can't read what she's doing, but it's like tab after tab after tab, and she's like going to one, jump into the other, and then she's got it split screened, and then she's like, and it's like, what are you doing? And I remember I asked her once, I was like, why are you doing that? And she went, because in 8 different articles it says this. But then I went to one, and like, weren't it something like his age? It was someone's age, and one person said it different. So then she was like, I've got to check even more now. I've got to find out how old he is. And she's got like 10 tabs open just to check someone's age.
Yep.
I want to try my hardest to be as factual as possible. You know what I mean? Like, so it's try your best, I can't guarantee, but I'll try my best.
Yep. No, I hear you on that. You one different thing, and it's like, oh man, now I got to check this. And yeah, absolutely. But when you guys do give that final product, it's very clean cut, very factual, down to it. So I appreciate that for somebody who's seeking content, because you guys cover a lot of cases that I haven't heard of. So again, as a listener, it's really great to learn that stuff from you guys. So thank you, Megan, for the work that you do.
Thank you. But you mentioned earlier about like Ted Bundy as an example, all these big cases. And I'm the exact same. I'm like, oh, well, I'm definitely going to cover this, and I'm definitely going to cover that. And then it kind of becomes almost a bit intimidating, because there's so much coverage of them. That you kind of be a bit like, oh, well, I'll get to it. I will get to it eventually. But I'm kind of glad, because it forces me to look at all these lesser known cases that don't really get the attention they deserve. So in a way, it's a good thing,
Yeah. And like you said earlier too, going off of that, with some of because it will happen with me as well. Some cases, like, viewers or listeners will say, hey, would you think of covering this? And I'm like, I don't know this one. And it's just, I get to learn about it myself as I'm researching it. And I'm like, I would have never selected this because I didn't even know about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, going back to the Kenny Carter one, I was fuming. I was livid. So I said to her, I went, I've got a case for you. No one will have covered it. No one. And I could have sworn I searched and no one had. And then when we were getting ready to record it, I just went on Spotify and I searched Kenny Carter, and boom, it came up, and it was another podcast. So it's someone we know who we've been talking to, and I was like, how does he even know that case? That's unreal. So I messaged him and I went, oi, why have you covered Kenny Carter?
That was my case.
I went, we were going to be the first to cover that. Why have you done that? And he went, oh, a listener who was a Speedway fan, he requested it. And I was like, bastard. Like, I wanted us to be the first one to do it. But he did actually pre-warn us as well. He said, just the Speedway community is going to come after you. Like, he was saying, I've had death threats. Oh yeah, like, it's brutal, that one. But yeah, I was gutted, but that was because a listener had requested it, but he was the only person to have covered it.
Wow. Have you? Well, you said you got backlash. Did you get any death threats from when you covered that?
No,
not death threats. I just had, like, so I'm in Speedway groups on Facebook and stuff. And a couple of them, I'd message the admins and I'd be like, I even found one. It was a Kenny Carter fan club. So I joined it and I messaged the admin and I said, listen, I know it's a touchy subject, but we did cover Kenny Carter. We have a true crime podcast, but I'm a Speedway fan. You know, I'm 36 years old. I've been into Speedway all my life. And my dad knew Kenny. So we thought we'd do a better job of covering it, of some of the knowledge I have.
Yeah.
Megan can do her amazing job of how she does the research, but then I can bring in the personal stuff, what you're not going to find on the internet. Stuff he said to my dad, like,
Wow.
and to people who my dad knew. And a couple of admins were like, yeah. Some of them was like, no, jog on, go away.
Yeah.
But some said yes. And the Kenny Carter fan club one said yes. So I put it in. But then the admin messaged me and he said, just to let you know, Kenny's daughter, brother's wife are in the group. If they ask for it to be taken down, I'm going to have to. And I went, no. If anyone is upset by it, either turn off the comments so there's no arguments in the comments, or just remove it. It's fine. I know it's a touchy subject. I know it's a lot to ask. It lasted about a week, and then his brother's wife messaged and was basically, she said she'd listened to the episode. It wasn't factually correct. She said some stuff, and so we just replied like, it was your husband's book we got the information from. So we weren't arseholes to her. We just said,
right,
you tell me where we went wrong, and we will look into it, and then we will issue like an apology. We got this wrong. She read it, didn't reply.
wow.
But yeah, she was saying you're not factually correct, and I'm like, well, it was your hubby's book. What gave us the information?
Wow.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest kind of, quote unquote backlash we've had overall. I mean, if someone's had anything negative to say, it's not really been that negative. It's just more so, our podcast isn't for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, and overwhelmingly, people have been absolutely lovely, incredibly supportive. So it's nice to see.
Awesome.
Yeah. It's like that's another good dynamic with us, because Megan's quicker to. So obviously, I don't need to tell you that response to that to Kenny's brother's wife, Megan had to write, because when I read it, I went, I'm just going to tell her to fuck off, and she's like, you can't do that.
You have to be respectful, and at the end of the day, if she did have something to genuinely correct and put right, I'm more than happy to put that out there and fix. But if they don't actually, and it's more so a case of they just want to kind of give out, it's kind of like, well,
yeah. Oh, that makes sense. Well, yeah, that does not surprise me that Megan had to follow up on that one. It's like, Neil, take the back seat on that. So you guys spoke about some of the feedback and the support that you've been getting for your channel, and it's brought about a lot of great opportunities, in regards to, I've heard you do other interviews. I know you were on Esther's show. You've been on her channel more than once, and you've been at CrimeCon UK. So tell us a little bit about those, opportunities that you've been able to do because of the podcast, but also your experience with being at CrimeCon.
So when we first started, obviously I knew nothing about editing. I knew nothing about audio equipment. So first thing I did was I was joining all these Facebook groups. And then once we got the podcast going, I was joining. It's like biggest mistake I ever did in some aspects, but I was joining these podcast groups, like podcast promotion groups. So it did good for us, but we also got a lot of spam. You get a lot of podcast promotion emails and private messages. Like, it got to the point where we were getting about 80 a day.
Oh,
it was just brutal. Like, you just keep blocking, and they're just making new accounts and just keep going. And I met someone, I can't remember who it was now. I met someone who knew a lot of podcasters, and they sent me a list of podcasts, of independent podcasts who are lovely. They'll help anyone. So, because I got told, do promo swaps. Like, you know, get your promo out there on as many podcasts as you can. And we contacted someone called Emily. So she's from Northern Ireland. She has a podcast called Morbidology, and she was going to CrimeCon, and she said to me, what you guys should do is contact Nancy, who runs CrimeCon UK, and see if you can get a table on Pod Row. And I was like, the podcast is about 3 months old. They're not going to touch us. But I think because Emily said, mention me, say, I told you to contact. So I did. And they contacted back and was like, yeah, absolutely. And was like,
can I just interject for a second? I think Neil is being a bit modest here. A hell of a lot of the promo swaps or, you know, connections we've made is down to Neil, because I am a lot more shy, quiet, introverted person. Neil has no shame. And I mean that as a compliment. He will say whatever to whoever. And, you know, some people don't like it, but a lot of people seem to admire him because it's kind of like, I like the way you approach me. He just bursts through the door and has such a kind of like personality that a lot of people just love it, because it's like, who is this guy? The cheek of him. They enjoy
like
it.
So the other podcast what covered Kenny Carter, he has a podcast called UK True Crime. It's like the #1 true crime podcast in the UK. And I got told is like, if you're just looking for a promo swap, don't contact him. He doesn't do promo swaps. So I was like, challenge accepted. I messaged him and I said on his personal Facebook, not the podcast, his personal
that
Facebook.
is bold.
And I messaged him and I said, you know, I basically just introduced myself and the podcast, and I said, just want to see if you're looking to do a promo swap. And I said, you'll get some fist if you don't. And he messaged me back and he said, that's the funniest shit I've ever read. I won't just do a promo swap. I'll talk about your podcast. And he did it. I think he was scared of it.
Oh my gosh.
It's crazy to me. Like, I could never do that. I'm just too anxious and nervous to do it. Whereas Neil just has, I don't even know, moxie.
Yeah.
You're charismatic too.
Yeah.
You're very charismatic. Yeah.
Well, I used to be a salesman, so
yeah,
like
there it
I can
is.
sell anything.
But I mean, that is the thing. Through Neil's outrageous behavior, it has opened doors for us. I mean, like you mentioned, Esther, you know, she is absolutely lovely. She's wonderful. She wants to help you. She wants to kind of push you along.
Yeah.
Another person who's been really helpful for us. I don't know if you know her, Tara from World's Dumbest Criminals. She's someone else.
I don't.
She's so brilliant, so talented, so funny. But she's another one who, you know, someone who will always be there for you to kind of give you a nudge. Or if we said, here, I'm not quite sure about this episode, could you listen to it and give us some feedback? And she will always be there to do it. And that is something in podcasting I've noticed. Okay, sometimes there's some bad things, but overwhelmingly people are so lovely and so willing to help. And like, sorry, just going back to you saying about Emily. She was the one who, Emily from Morbidology, another amazing podcast, who kind of gave us that nudge to go to CrimeCon, which, again, I'm more introverted, quiet person. I was terrified to go, but I'm so glad I did. And it was so worth it. You get to meet so many amazing people. And Neil was chatting it up with everyone, having a great time.
And at the end of the weekend, they announced, but they was going to be selling tickets for next year immediately. And they were saying you can even pay in installments. If you go to the tables where there's CrimeCon staff with the tablets, you can purchase your ticket. So we was packing our table up and I said to her, I went, just one sec. And I legged it over and I saw all these women, all these people queuing to pay. And I was going up to them going, they don't like to tell you this, but if you use code Mortal, you get 10% off. And I went on every single person. And then it even got to the point where women who was working for CrimeCon was saying they didn't have a code, so I put Mortal down for you. We ended up selling like how many VIP tickets and platinum tickets and
Yeah, so that's great. And again, it's his whole kind of cheeky salesman side came out. Wonderful, great. But while that was happening, I'm back at our table trying to break it down. I'm trying to talk to other people, and they're like, "Where's Neil?" And I'm like, "I have no clue where he is."
I came back with a bottle of wine in my back
He
pocket.
did.
Oh my gosh. So was that your first time going to CrimeCon?
Yeah.
It was a really good experience, but yeah, it's quite full on. Like I said, when you're kind of not used to that experience, but I'm so glad we did it.
Yeah, because we've been about a year. We started in November 23.
Mhm.
CrimeCon was in September. But we're going again this year in June, and it's going to be better. Like, we're getting on stage with Esther. We're doing a live show. Did you not know
What?
that?
Well,
I
we-
didn't
no.
know that.
hang on. I don't know if you were meant to say that.
Oh,
We're
okay.
hoping to do that. We need to obviously get the go ahead and everything. But Neil's just giving you exclusives here. Apparently,
I'm sorry.
Oh my God, I'm excited. And I won't
We're-
even
we're-
be there. Oh, man.
I better bring my shot glass just for the nerves.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll
Oh
bring
my
my shot
gosh. That is so exciting. That is, well, one, I was going to ask if you were going to have a booth there, but Neil,
Yeah.
my God, with that exclusive. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
been to three crime cons, but just as like a regular guest of somebody who's into true crime. But this year it's going to be in Denver, and things will be a little different this year. I'll leave it at that, and stay tuned. But oh my gosh, yeah, CrimeCon is wild, and I'm not familiar with what it's like at the UK CrimeCon.
Yeah, well,
But-
that's what I was going to say. Like, in fairness, the UK version, I mean, we haven't been to the American, but from what we've been told, in America, it's much bigger, bolder, whereas the UK, I suppose you'd say it's more intimate kind of
Well,
feel.
like how I got told, I was talking to Aaron from Generation Y,
Yeah.
and he said, if you look at CrimeCon UK, you've got about 700 people who come. He went, if you go to the American one, did he say like 4,000?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
So it's
Yeah.
quite a different scale. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize it was that small. Wow. Yeah, definitely a smaller scale, but still.
but like we had people saying to Americans at CrimeCon UK, and they were saying, you need to come to CrimeCon in America. And it's like,
Yes.
we work full time.
Same.
We can't,
Dan's like, what's your excuse? Get on the
Same.
flight.
tell you
Come
what,
over.
you come
And
to
I
CrimeCon
save cats, and I do rescue work saving cats. Let's throw that there.
Yeah, but you
All right,
already
Neil,
live in
please tell
America.
us why you can't come.
So we
So
will 100% at some point. We will definitely be going over to the US for a crime con. We just don't know when or which one it'll be.
yeah, but what this person was saying is, if CrimeCon goes to New Orleans, your logo will be so popular. And then Aaron from Generation Y, he was like, yeah, and what you can do is get merch, get t-shirts, and put different hats on the skulls. He went, in New Orleans, you'll sell out. I was like, we might have to do that.
What about Salem?
Okay, okay, I'm going to take me off camera.
I'm representing
It's backwards.
MA.
Yeah, but it's backwards.
All right, sorry, my bad. Hit the wrong button. Loving it, loving it. Oh, you guys are just, I said to them off camera, I'm like, you guys just give Salem vibes, and I love it.
That's just a massive compliment. I really love that comparison.
I don't know it.
What do you mean you don't know it?
Salem to me is a cat.
It's the cat in Sabrina.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's kind of a good indication. No?
I mean, there
You
was
have a
also
black
something called the witch trials, but I guess Sabrina
not
and her
everyone
cat will
knows
go with
about
that.
it.
That's fine. That's fine. There's
Hang
a
on, is it
shirt I
Salem or
actually
the
contemplated
GTP?
getting, you guys, but I was like, I don't know. It's a shirt that says, I got stoned in Salem, Massachusetts because Giles Corey got stoned to death. I don't know if you know that history, but yeah.
Yeah.
Is it Salem where my tea got dumped? Is that
What?
Salem?
You're talking about Boston Tea Party.
The Boston Tea Party?
Oh yeah. So that's not Salem.
Boston. I mean, that's like 45 minutes away. You're close. You're close.
Because
But-
we always said if we went on vacation to America, it'd be Boston.
Okay. And I'm here. So yes.
Tour guide.
We got told it's a smaller, quieter, cleaner New York City. That's what we got told.
I think that's fair. So my he's actually in the chat. So Mr. Beckham, he comes on my channel to do like the weekly true crime and chill. And we were co-hosts along with somebody else on another channel talking about the Manson case. Beckham is from Texas and had never been to Massachusetts. So him and his girlfriend came and we did tourist stuff the whole time. We did Boston, we did Salem. I mean, we did everything. And dare I say, I think I'm a pretty good host. So obviously, I would hook you guys up where to stay, what to do, everything.
See, we're the complete opposite. When we went to CrimeCon UK, it was only when we got back we found out, but the Ripper murders were like...
Well, no, hang on. We found out. I knew where it was. Can we just stop for a sec here, okay? I am from Ireland, yeah? But
Yep.
I've been to the UK loads of times. It's, half hour, an hour flight, depending on where you're going. It's a quick little getaway. Great. Neil grew up in the UK. Now, it was the north. 35 the first time he went to London, the capital. Like how do you get to 35 and it's the first time you've ever been? Never just gone down for a weekend or anything.
Never called to me.
CrimeCon was the first time Neil went to London. I find
I survived.
It's crazy.
I survived as well.
He's like nervous. He was like, oh, the big smoke going to the city. Something's going to happen. It's dangerous. It's not that bad.
Oh my God. That's so funny because last night after the show, the True Crime and Chill we did, me and Beckham were just like, we should do a trip to the UK, like a friend trip to the UK. And then like today he's like, trip? I'm like, let's talk about it. Let's see. So, oh man. But yes, oh my God, you guys have to come to a crime con here in the States for sure. But when is the next Crime Con UK? When is that?
Start of June.
June 8th.
Okay.
7th and 8th, yeah.
Awesome. Because I do have some listeners that are in, an audience base that is in the UK. So if you guys are there, go to CrimeCon, check out Megan and Neil on Podcast Row, and give them some love because that's awesome.
If you haven't got your ticket yet, use code Mortal, 10% off.
You heard that here, folks. And then you heard something you might not have been supposed to have heard. We'll see.
Yeah.
But shout out. Okay, quick pause. Shout out to Esther from Once Upon a Crime. She is, like you said, Megan, she is amazing. Love her. She just genuinely likes to help other podcasters, or in my sense, YouTuber, just grow their channel. And she just gives so much great advice. And I've texted her on occasion. I'm like, can I ask your opinion on this? And she's amazing.
Yeah.
So shout out to Esther.
It feels rare to meet someone who's just genuinely good, just wants to help. It's not that they necessarily expect anything in return. It's just, hey, I like you. Let me do this for you.
She's literally our podcast mama. Really is. Like, she looks after us. She really does look out for us and gives us advice. And she's,
Esther is how we met you.
Yeah.
Yes.
There you go.
This is what I mean. She's made so many connections for us.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it came to CrimeCon, so we were supposed to meet last year at CrimeCon, and she ends up being too busy, and she was like, I'm gonna not go, but I'll go next year. And then I can't believe I said that without it being official.
Yeah, you maybe should have got that confirmed, but oh well.
What I can do, we'll talk. I could, magic of technology. So, all right, let me see. So I know we've talked about.
Esther's watching, she's going to be like, shit.
Well done, Neil. Brilliant.
Magic of editing, folks. Magic of editing. So since you guys grew up, we've talked a little bit where you you grew up in two completely different areas. Were there any true crime cases that were local to you where you grew up, or even where you guys live now, that maybe listeners should look into?
Well, Neil's got a big one.
Shall I go first? Because
Yeah.
I've just got one, I think.
Yeah, work away.
So not far from where I live, there was the Yorkshire Ripper, Peter Sutcliffe. So my dad, he was a lorry driver. Do they say lorry in America?
Yeah.
Arctic?
Lorry, truck driver.
Truck driver. Truck driver.
He
Okay.
did deliveries in a big vehicle.
Okay, thank you.
Big, long vehicle. And it even got to the point where he was getting stopped. Like, you always make jokes saying your dad was Yorkshire Ripper.
Yeah.
Because he was getting pulled over. Everyone was, to see if Peter Sutcliffe was in the car, in the truck. So I remember my dad telling me that. Didn't really affect me because I weren't born until 89. Was he before that?
Mm-hmm.
He was. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, that's the only big one near where I lived. The only other thing I can remember is when I started working as an apprentice when I was like 16, 17. I worked as an apprentice as a mechanic, and the mechanic showing me how to do stuff, he went, "Pass me the Sutcliffe," and I went, what the fuck is a Sutcliffe? And he went, "The hammer, the Sutcliffe," because he used to beat women with the hammer. Yeah. And I was like, is that why we call it a Sutcliffe?
Very tasteless people where you were from.
Interesting.
So yeah, in Yorkshire you don't really say hammer, you say the Sutcliffe.
Okay, like you can't like label all people from Yorkshire as being that tasteless. You're just mechanics in that workshop.
I guarantee I'm not the only one. I guarantee there's other people in Yorkshire who still to this day call a hammer a Sutcliffe. Probably. And don't know why.
Oh, they must know why. Surely. I suppose for me, there's two cases that come to mind. The first would be Larry Murphy, who we actually covered. It was very high profile in Ireland. Basically, he had sexually assaulted a woman and attempted to murder her. She managed to escape. But he's also thought to be linked to Ireland's Vanishing Triangle. Nothing is proven, but there's a lot of theories there. Yeah, it was just one of those big, massive cases in Ireland that kind of took over. The other one would be the Scissor Sisters. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, it was kind of the more sensationalized story. Two sisters murdered their mother's boyfriend and chopped up his body and threw the pieces into the canal. And
in a suitcase.
I mean, yeah, and there was, again, it was in pieces. It was quite a big case over here, quite shocking. In Ireland, we don't tend to have as many bigger, gruesome murders as, say, in the US or even the UK. UK aren't in the same leagues as the US, but you definitely have more than us. So when we get a case like that, it's quite shocking, and the news love it. They want to capitalize on it. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, if you're not familiar, I suppose, have a look into the Scissor Sisters. Tongue twister. The Scissor Sisters.
Well, that's another case. What's near you? The Vanishing Triangle.
Yeah. That's kind of all the counties surrounding us of the disappearance of different women who, none of it's solved. And it's kind of what happened. Are they connected? It's.
And if you didn't get it, on the map from the counties, it makes a triangle.
I kind of figured, but okay. Thank you for spelling that out, as well as your many examples of a box truck. But thank you. So it's very interesting in regards to like connections with true crime, or even, and let me know if you guys have had this experience too, where you've covered a case, and have you had any viewers or listeners reach out to you and say, "Hey, I'm from that area," or "I know one of the victims," or even, the killer in the case. Have you had your audience reach out to you with those connections?
I don't want to be disrespectful, but I can't remember the name of the person who we covered. It was an old lady and a young lad had gone into the house.
Evelyn Reid.
Do you know that one? her granddaughter
Vaguely.
contacted us.
No,
Really?
no, her granddaughter didn't.
Someone contacted the Facebook page.
No, what?
Can't you remember? It was.
Okay, I don't know what Neil's talking about. I do know what you're talking about. Sorry, I thought you were talking about a more recent case. Recently, we had someone contact us who said she had a connection. Her babysitter was the mother of one of the people involved in the murder.
Oh.
You're talking about the Marie Rose case. We covered her case, and then her great granddaughter contacted us and just said, kind of, thank you for covering the case and doing it in a good way and respectful way. And I really appreciate it. It was nice to hear someone talking about my great grandmother. Yeah, I didn't know where you're going with that. I think you're about a completely different case.
No, because
I apologize.
She was asking what cases we've covered, and then people have contacted us.
Yeah. But
Either way.
I'd forgotten all about it. Yeah, no, that was a while ago now. But yeah, I mean, it's always nice to get that feedback. But of course, if someone had negative feedback, I mean, feedback's feedback. We'll take that on board. If we've done something wrong or what someone perceives as being, disrespectful or whatever, we want to know that so we can get better. And
right. Yeah, especially if they have like a personal connection to a case and absolutely. So to take a little bit of a twist in regards to going off of true crime just for a hot minute. So my audience here is very, very animal lover to the extreme. And my audience know, and I've sent y'all pictures. So I have 6 cats. I am into feline rescue. So love felines. But you guys have 2 pets as well. And one of them has a very interesting name. But tell us about your pets, please.
So we have a cat. What is he, 7 now?
Yeah, he's nearly 8. Yeah.
He's called Ty, and he's named after a speedway rider called Ty Woffington.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. I love cats, but he tests me sometimes. Every time we get a pet, they judge me.
See, yes, our cats are very judgmental of Neil. I don't know what that is. I'm not actually great with cats. I was always much more of a dog person, a bit nervous around cats. Now that I have my own cat, I love him to death. He's a sweetheart, but he's also a little shit. But when we were getting a cat, I said to Neil, one thing I would definitely want to do is get a black cat, because apparently they're not adopted as easily as others.
Yeah.
And I was
Correct.
like, why?
People go for turtle shells.
There's a mix of people are superstitious, and the one that really pisses me off is they don't photograph as well as other breeds. And I'm like,
I got called the vicious. Black cats are more vicious, and it's like,
now I have to say, Ty does not photograph well. He is one of the most unphotogenic cats I've ever seen in my life. But you get hilarious pictures from him. It's like all blurry and it's just like fangs hanging out.
so then we've also got a dog, a Pomeranian. So a couple of years ago, I wanted to get Megan a dog, but I didn't want her to know about it. And I was contacting all these different people, and I was looking at French bulldogs. I didn't want anything too big, what needed to be walked every day. And so it was a Pomeranian, a French bulldog, and a Bichon Frise,
I think.
Frise, the white one. And I ended up going for the Pomeranian, and Megan was at home, and I didn't know how to go and get this dog. So I said to her, I went, look, I've got you a Christmas present, but I've had it custom made. I need to go and collect it. So she believed it. She bought it because I'm just poker face. And then, so I drove like an hour to go and get him. I had to quickly run into the pet shop and get the carrier. I got him a toy, got him some food, and then I drove back. So I'd got it like how I wanted her to come across this dog in
you
the
had
house.
this like perfect scenario of I'm going to like present the dog to her.
So I said to her, I'm home, but I want to put your present in the shed. Can you pass me the key out of the... I don't know what my excuse was for you to give it me out of the bathroom window.
I can't even remember what it was, but you had this whole long-winded thing of you can't see what I've got. You need to pass the key out of the window.
No, I didn't want you to pass me the key. I said, you go in the bathroom so I can come in and I have your present, but I'm going to get the shed key and go back out, and then you can leave the bathroom. She went in the bathroom with the shed key. So I came in with the dog in the carrier. And as I opened it to take him out, she came out of the bathroom and went, have you bought another fucking cat? And I went, no. And I turned around with, I can't say his name yet because you need to. So I turned around with the dog. You wasn't happy.
No,
but
because
you was.
Okay, okay, the cat thing, although I love my cat, he does not like other cats. Neil had this thing of like he loves them. Absolutely loves them, and he really wanted another cat. Yeah, he had this fixation on Maine Coons in particular, and I was like, you cannot get one. It's not fair to Ty. He doesn't get on with them, so he decided to get a dog. I've always had dogs, love them, but at this moment in time, we had a very small living space, and you're getting me a puppy that I've now got to train, and I was very stressed, and I was like, oh my god! But as soon as he handed me the puppy, I was just like, this is my baby. I'm never letting him go. Like we went to the pet shop not long after to get him, was it the harness and the lead or something? And Neil was like, do you want me to take him? And I was like, no, I'm good. I'll just hold him. He's a sweetheart.
So the names we came up with for him was Milo, Douglas,
yeah.
What else? And then I think I said as a joke, I said Norman, after Norman Wisdom, the old comedic actor. Okay. And she said, I like Norman, but it's after Norman Bates.
Yeah, but can I just say, it's not like, oh, I love Norman Bates. I love Norman Bates, the character. I'm a big horror fan, and don't get much more iconic than Psycho. But like Neil has said many times, Norman is very definitely a mama's boy, so it's very fitting.
Yeah,
he lives up to the name.
And the best bit is if Norman's misbehaving, she'll normally just go, Norman, no, but then I'll start going, Norman, no.
Yeah. I become Norma Bates very definitely with that dog.
Oh man, yeah. When you guys said that once in one of your episodes, that your dog Norman and then the Norman Bates connection, I was like, that is amazing. That is cool.
Yeah.
And they get along. The dog and the cat get along.
Yeah, like the cat will pretend like he doesn't like the dog, and then you'll look over when he doesn't see, and Norman will be like cleaning Ty's ears or something, and Ty is loving it.
Aww.
But as soon as he catches your eye, he'll just like hit Norman or something and be like, get off. And it's like, you're so fake.
If Norman's at the vets, like when we took Norman to the vets and he was there for a couple of hours, yeah, you could tell Ty were missing him. And then when we brought him back in, Ty were all over it.
But the thing is with Ty, he grew up around like my parents' dogs. So he has some mannerisms from dogs, whereas Norman has grown up around Ty and has some mannerisms from a cat.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting mix in this house.
Like Ty scratches himself like a dog. I don't know how to explain it, but when you watch him do it, it's that's a dog.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. But yeah, oh my gosh, your pets are so cute, and your Ty looks just like my Luke, my cat.
Yeah,
Luke.
beautiful.
So
is that the last one? The last cat she was sending us photos of, and I was like,
no, it was a different
I want
one.
it.
That was different. That was one that you were working with in the shelter, wasn't it?
It was more fluffy.
Yeah,
in the face.
Yeah, he's still there. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking his name, and I can picture him in the cage right now. What's the name?
I want to say Jackson. Is that right, or am I just going off on a tangent? Jackson?
I should know this. Blackjack.
Blackjack.
Blackjack? No. That's not Jack Black.
Oh,
yeah.
Jack Black.
Jack Black.
I was like,
he's still there. He's still there. We just did adoptions this weekend. He didn't get adopted. He's still there. But yeah, oh my gosh. So side note, so volunteering at a cat shelter in Salem, we are like, our shelter is very strict. We screen. Like we really screen because we want to set these animals up for their forever home, so to speak. And of course, being in Salem, like around Halloween, like people will just come out of the woodwork. They're like, I want a black cat. And it's like,
Yeah.
So we're a lot more stricter around Halloween with our black cats for that reason, because it's like, yeah, you weren't here all year round, but you're here now.
Yeah.
But I love your animals. They're so cute.
What
so
are your
cute.
cats like? Do they all get along, or is it chaos in your house?
They, for the most part, all get along. Have you guys heard of the show My Cat from Hell with Jackson Galaxy?
Yes.
Yeah. So wait, so what?
He has a guitar case full of cats. Yeah.
I met him. I've met him twice. So there's side tangent. There's a convention called CatCon, and I used to go to that every year. I would fly to California to go to CatCon.
Yeah.
And he was there.
I was looking at it, I was like, do I get tickets? Because I feel like Neil would love this.
See, there's a con for everything now, isn't there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I've gone to CatCon, I think like 5 or 6 years, and then I started going to CrimeCon instead because, But I met Jackson Galaxy at the first one, and he's, oh my God, so cool. But anyway, I stand by his methods on like how to introduce pets to other pets, and so everything is good. Every once in a while, there's like a little hissing, but everybody, they're all good. They're all good. So
see,
yeah. 6
so
cats.
Dani's at a con and she's meeting people. Last year at CrimeCon, Chris Hansen was there. I didn't even go over and talk to him.
I did find that about it though. You're so busy and you're talking to so many people that someone you thought, I'd love to go talk to them. You don't necessarily have time to. It kind of just where you kind of naturally migrate during the conversations and have you met so and so, and I suppose it kind of just kind of happens. Whoever you end up making connections with.
This past CrimeCon, I was like in between stuff, and I was walking in the main lobby, and he was there, and I was just like, Chris Hansen. So I got a picture with him, and he's like, I just spilled coffee on my shirt. I'm so sorry. I'm like, no, it's all good. Oh gosh. So in regards to your kind of wrapping things up for you guys, so I would say any upcoming projects or collaborations for your channel that you can give us a sneak peek about, besides Neil earlier, but anything else that might be coming up that you want to share a little information on that people can look forward to.
There is one I can say, because like it is in the works. So at the last CrimeCon, there was another podcast there called Body Bags.
With Joseph Scott Morgan.
Yes.
Yeah. So we was talking to him and his wife, Kimmy, and she is so cute. She was sat there at the table with a full-on wall calendar, and she was like, do you want to have Joseph on your podcast? And I was like, yes. And she's like, we can fit you in. And then she wrote us down on the calendar. But then there was like health issues and stuff, weren't there?
Yeah, he was hospitalized recently.
Yeah.
And before that, it was just we had scheduling issues. They had,
so Christmas, New Year.
It was just one of those things. Wasn't meant to be at the time, but hopefully not too distant future we'll have Joseph on the podcast, and we're hoping to maybe have a chat about more specifically his career and how it's affected him and his opinions on things rather than a case as such.
Yeah, because I wanted to ask him about like, different weights and decomp, like
how it affects it.
How do you know going in if someone weighs 8 stone and someone weighs is American. So if someone weighs 110 pounds and someone weighs 200 pounds, how much of an effect does it time wise for decomp for you to work out when they died? It's stuff like that. I think it'd be really, really interesting.
Well, I think another kind of question I would have for him is, in our podcast, someone may have done something horrific, a horrible crime, but I always want to look at the mental health side, when and where I can. And that would be something, provided obviously how far he's wanting to or comfortable talking about it, but how that affects the job. you know, the toll
Yeah.
it can take on you. That's a pretty intense job to take on, and it's gonna affect you.
Right.
I think that would be an interesting thing to hear firsthand from someone.
Yeah.
Or you're just stuck on the body weight.
I'm stuck on the body.
Yeah, he is somebody that I was able to meet as well at CrimeCon, and I was just like, I have a small channel. If you ever have time, please come on. He is so nice. Him and his wife Kim, they are super super busy.
As soon as he started talking, I was like, I'm in love with your voice. And then he told me I kept calling him like Mr. America and stuff like that. And then he said, I used to do the voice for the Ford ads. They'd be like, Ford Raptor and all that.
This is what made me laugh. So I was there, like, oh my God, his voice, it's stunning. I'm falling in love with this man. And then he walks over to me and goes, "You're Irish. Say something." And I like panicked. And I'm like, So I come out with the most Irish thing you can think of. I just go, potato. What do I say? Potato. There you go. Don't put me on the spot, lads. I don't know what to say.
Oh my God, that's wild. I would love to hear him on your channel. I mean, I'm sorry, on your channel, on your podcast. Oh my gosh, because the type of questions that you, Megan, would ask are totally different than what Neil would ask. But at the end, when they all come together, it would be a very informative episode.
But he's great as well because he's a good sense of humor. I feel like he would work really well on the podcast.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, fingers crossed you get him on soon. I would love to listen to that for sure. So just to wrap things up again, where can people find your podcast and your website and any social media handles for your show?
So yeah, we're on everything social media wise, aren't we?
Facebook. I was about to say Twitter. Twitter's not even a thing anymore. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, mortalmusingspodcast.com. Pretty much wherever you can find a podcast, we're going to be there hanging about. So anything else? Anywhere else? Am I forgetting something?
Blue Sky. I created a Blue Sky.
Oh, forgive me. We're on Blue Sky.
I don't know what Blue Sky is.
It's the new. So
it's where all the kids are these days. It's
because everyone was leaving X. Everyone were leaving X. Someone started. I think it's the people who started Twitter have now started Blue Sky, and there's loads of people on it. So I was diving. So it's basically your Twitter. Basically. Okay.
Well, I've learned something new.
Threads. We're on Threads.
I still don't really understand what's going on there, if I'm honest with you. I'm not the biggest social media person. I'll do it for the podcast, but me personally, I don't really know what's happening.
I think I post once every 4 months on Threads.
Brian's there occasionally on Threads, guys.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, and your website, which I did put in the drop-down bar, has all of the handles for all of your social media. So people can also click the link in the drop-down bar and it will go directly to your site and they can find you there. All right. Well, thank you so much, Megan and Neil, for coming on Dani After Dark. I really, really appreciate it. You guys are awesome. And if anybody who is watching this is not subscribed to Mortal Musings, what are you waiting for? Just do it. Just do it. It's amazing.
Thanks for having us on.
Thank you. We had a great time. So nice to speak to you again.
All right, everybody. Take care. And remember, until next time, we don't live in darkness. Darkness lives in us. Bye, everyone.